Okay, I'm back with part 2. I had to take a little break. I was emotional and I hadn't eaten anything all day, so I actually went to Smoothie King and Chick-fil-A. I can show you what I got. I got pineapple surf with frozen yogurt, 32 ounces. It's really good. I was never a Smoothie King person, but like since pregnant, I've only had like maybe 4 of them. But it really comes in a pinch when you just want like something. And then I got this. Salad's definitely one of the things I crave. This is how much I ate until I was full. I mean, obviously I had weight loss surgery, so my portions are still really small. Like my restriction is still really tight. So I'm gonna work on that like throughout the day. So maybe by 6 it'll be done. And that'll probably be what I'll eat for the day. If I eat anything later, I have a couple things I've been wanting. Like I noticed when I'm pregnant, I like a lot more different things that I don't normally eat. I never, ever, hardly ever eat out. When I lived in Georgia, I never ate out. And then here, only time I ate out and I hated it was when we were renovating the kitchen and I couldn't cook. So even then I usually would cook in like a frying pan skillet plugged in. And, but it comes in handy now. So I just ate a little food, got myself together, and I'm gonna do part 2. I want to talk about like my actual pregnancy so far, like some of my stats, kind of like how it's going, and like what we're doing. Like I think it's a little different when you're older. So I found out I was pregnant on a Friday, the 26th of April, and I took the P test and I took like 3 of them, told my husband, told my mom like right away. My brothers and sisters know. My brother Wyatt lives like a few miles away and he's like my #1 support in my life. So of course he had to know. So I told them, and it was hard to believe, you know, like it was really hard to believe. And I just couldn't fathom it. I couldn't believe it. It didn't make sense. Like how, like, you know, like after all this effort and trying, like how now, like how, like I'm not even joking when I tell you that when we were fostering Emerson, the baby we were fostering, there's a part 1 to this video. We were lucky if we got it in once a month. Like it was that stressful. So that's kind of crazy. So what happened was that same night on the 26th when my husband got home, I could tell that he was having an even harder time believing it. Like he, like almost like, he didn't say it, but he didn't say it directly, but indirectly the message I was getting was he refused to believe it. He couldn't believe it. So we actually went to Target and got some better pea sticks and stuff. I'm gonna go get it and show it to you. Hold on. I went and got the pea sticks so I can show you. So I did start a journal, obviously, because I'm weird like that. But my first pregnancy tests that I told you were like super bright, like right there. Like the second line was pretty light. The first line was super bright. Those were the first ones. And there's another, this is the picture of them right there. The first line is super bright. And then these are the digital ones I took that same night. We went to Target. It was more my husband who wanted to do it, believe it or not, because he couldn't believe it. And we got 2. Definitely dye stealers. I just mean like the first line is like super bright. Let me get this out of there so you can see. Like the pregnant line is like really bright and the control line is barely a control line. It's just like really dull. We did a digital one too that said pregnant. They didn't have the one that told you how many weeks you were. I really wanted one, but they didn't even have it. But I left these in the car one day and the screen totally turned black, so I just threw it out. So I kept this one. So what happened was I just kind of lived with it for the weekend and I really couldn't believe it. Like I honestly could not believe it. And on Monday, I started calling doctors because I needed to get into a doctor. But one thing I will tell you that happened is on like Saturday or Sunday, because once again, I'm a chronic overthinker. I don't really know what the word is. It might be neurotic, I don't know, but in a good way. But like I think about everything. right? So I'm kind of a detective about everything. Like I like to hack it, I like to think about it. I'm a critical thinker. Like I will figure the mystery out. So somewhere between Saturday and Sunday, I had an awful, terrible thought. And I said to myself, oh my God, this med spa that I go to for my Ozempic, because if you watched the first video, I tell you that the first week I was pregnant or so, I didn't know I was pregnant, and I started getting massively hungry, like intense hunger that I hadn't experienced for like 4 or 5 years. So it's before weight loss surgery. And I went to a med spa and I got an Ozempic. So I was on like 0.25 milligrams injection, and it was compounded. So a compounded means they put Ozempic with some other stuff. And so Saturday or Sunday, I had this eureka moment, and I said, oh my God, these bitches at the med spa are dosing me with HCG. Because HCG is another thing that creates weight, it produces weight loss. It makes you like not hungry, produces weight loss. And I was like, they mixed that Ozempic there, dosed me with HCG. Like, I'm not pregnant, there's no way, like how? So I literally was like, I'm not pregnant. Like this is messed up, I swear to God. Like I literally considered that because I was like constantly like, how does this happen? Like how? So, and I had no idea how far along I was at this point when I started calling around doctors on Monday. This thing was bright. Like this wasn't a light pregnancy test. Like this was a pretty bright pregnancy test. Like, am I 3 months pregnant? Am I in my second trimester? Like how pregnant am I? When was the last time I did a medicated cycle? Was it December? Have I been pregnant since December and didn't know it? And I'm like January, February, March, 4 months pregnant? Like, could it be? Like, I'm not skinny. So on Monday, I started calling around doctors. And when I told my mom I was pregnant on Friday, she was like, you need to go to the ER. She's like me, right? She's like extra. So she was like, you need to go to the ER immediately and make sure like everything is okay, like now. And I was like, no, Mom, that's overreacting. I'm gonna wait until Monday. I'm gonna get an appointment. They'll have me come right in, like I'm older. On Monday, I tried calling all around like my area for all these OBs. And these people were like, we have nothing until end of June. We have nothing until July. And I was like, what? Oh my God. I was like, I can't wait that long. I was like, I'm 44. Is that normal to wait that long? And they were like, no, probably shouldn't. So I was like, should I go to the ER? And they were like, we can't advise you to go to the ER, but it's totally up to you. So I called a couple of ERs and I was like, I'm 44. I just found out I was pregnant. I'm fine. I'm having some like light cramping, but should I come to the ER? Like I can't find a doctor to take me until like July. And they were like, well, we can't give you medical advice until you should, but it's up to you. And people do it. And I was like, okay. So I called my mom and I was like, I'm going to the ER. Like, I just need to know. Like, I really thought like I was being tricked, like the HCG from the med spa. Like, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And the thing is, I have had positive pregnancy tests when I did egg retrievals from the HCG from the trigger shots. So I know that you can get HCG in your system from shots. So I was like, just damn Ozempic, right? So I went to the ER and I kind of fibbed just a little bit, but not really. I told them, I said, I'm not in any real pain, but I'm 44 and I took pregnancy tests. I had the pregnancy test with me. That's how they got left in the car. I had all of them with me and I fell pregnant just spontaneously. And I've gone through IVF and stuff and I've never been pregnant. And, you know, the reason we never even did a frozen embryo thing was because we only got one egg. So like, obviously I'm not good at like creating eggs. So I said, not in any pain, but I do have some cramping on this side, my left side. And I just want to make sure I'm okay. Like, I'm afraid of a topic. Like, I don't really know. Like, what if I'm like 5 or 6 months pregnant and don't know it? Like, I'm not skinny. And so they were really great. They were just like, oh my God, let me see your pregnancy test. Like, they were like, oh my God, like really treated me like a walking miracle, which was kind of cute. I was like, I just want to find out if I'm pregnant. Like, they were excited for me, like immediately. They were like, oh my God, you're pregnant. Congratulations, girl. And I'm just like, I couldn't get excited because I was like, yeah, I just need to find out if I'm pregnant. Like, I couldn't get excited, you know? So what was the first thing they did? I know they put me on an IV. That was pretty much it. They did my vitals and stuff. And that one nurse, the one nurse, she was just like, you are a walking miracle. She's like, oh my God, congratulations, 44 was your first. Like, she was so happy for me. And I was just thinking, I was like, I'm probably just dosed on HCG. It's probably a wrong reading. Like, I couldn't. And so they did they did blood work, and they did ultrasound. And I got very upset during the ultrasound. Nobody really knew I was upset, but I was like hiding behind my hands crying. And the reason why is because I've had a lot of like the intrauterine, transvaginal, whatever you call it, ultrasounds that are very devastating to me. Like, oh, there's no follicles, ma'am. And I'm just like, and I don't know why. Like, it's just traumatizing to me. The transvaginal ultrasounds are just hard for me. And I'm always looking for bad news, right? So I was upset during the ultrasound, and I was just like, I shouldn't have come here alone, because I was literally like trying to hold it together in there. And I was also just emotional at the time. I didn't know why. And so eventually the nurse comes up and she's like, congratulations, you're definitely pregnant. And I was like, really? And she's like, yes. She's like, your HCG is 11,000 and then some. And I was like, really? And she was like, yes. And she's like, you're definitely pregnant. And I was like, did they find anything at the ultrasound? She's like, well, they haven't read the ultrasound yet, but you're definitely pregnant. So at that point, I let myself just get a little tiny bit excited, just a little bit of belief, because 11,000, my HCG was 11,200. So it's not low. It's not 57 and it's not 9. And I've never had that. So I was like, that's a lot. I was like, how far along am I? Like, oh my God. And so eventually the ultrasound came back, and that's when they like, you know, they told me that there is a uterine pregnancy. Looks like a singleton, and there is a gestational sac and a yolk sac, and it's too early to see the fetus, or it will be an embryo at this point, right? So it's too early to see the embryo, because I was only measuring about 5 weeks and I think like 2 to 4 days. So it was like just slightly too early to really see anything. So she said, you're definitely pregnant, congratulations. And she was like so happy for me. But at the same time, I was very happy, but I was also hesitant, because I know at my age, like the reality, you know, like I just know the reality. And I had a really hard time creating eggs. So I'm being cautiously optimistic. So I have to wait. So what I did was when I went home, I made an appointment with the first doctor who could take me. It was a female doctor. I'm not gonna say her name, but I just called, talked to the receptionist. She had availability the soonest I could find, and it was in a couple of weeks. So I took it, and you know, I downloaded all the apps, like put in there, they thought it was 5 weeks, 4 days or so, put that in there, kind of estimated out my due date would be like Christmas Day, which is kind of cool because I got pregnant like right between my birthday and my husband's birthday. Like, what a birthday present. And then this will be the best Christmas present ever, you know? So until then, like I just kind of, every single day I always checked and worried about spotting. Didn't spot one single time. Was just doing fine. And then I've heard all the horror stories, right? So cautiously optimistic. I'm pregnant and I'm just gonna go see how it's going. So finally the appointment comes along, and my husband came because it's like our first doctor's appointment. And you know, so I told her about the ER visit. I've obviously never been to an OB for pregnancy purposes, but I have been to a gynecologist like many, many times in my life. And this was the most unpleasant doctor I've ever had. And like, I'm not a big fan of like small talk. Like, I don't really like small talk. My husband does, but I couldn't really care less. And this doctor was the most miserable doctor I've ever had in my life. I don't know if she's just having a bad day, but she was pretty snippy and weird. And all she really did was, I went in, the nurse was really sweet. The nurse had me pee in a cup. She's like, oh, what pregnancy number is this for you? And I was like, 1. And she's like, oh, wow, congratulations. And she had us pee in a cup. And like, you know, I don't need everybody to be like super happy for me. Like I honestly would like somebody who's just like clear, concise, and thorough. And the doctor finally came in and she just started asking me like, you know, historical data, which is weird because I already filled it out online. I already answered the nurse. So she starts asking me, and she asked me like, what is your past surgeries? And I was like, my most recent surgery was my egg retrievals in 2021. And she looks at me, she goes, egg retrievals aren't surgery, like that. And I was like, I didn't take it very well because my response wasn't like, oh, okay. My response was, well, I mean, I was under anesthesia and they removed like tissue from my body. So that was kind of my response, because I was like, how is it not surgery? I was euthanized, like not euthanized, but I was like under anesthesia. Like, how is that not a surgery? Like, I'm anesthesiaed, you know? So I don't know. And they're putting a thing in me and like removing eggs. So aspirating eggs out of my body. Maybe not, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a procedure. I don't know. And then I told her about my other surgeries. Like I had a gallbladder removal, I had weight loss surgery. That was basically, she's like, any health issues? I was like, no. She's like, none? And I was like, no. She's like, what medications are you on? I was like, none. And she's like, none? And I was like, no. I was like, I was sick with the flu like a couple weeks ago and I had some, whatever. But that was it. She's kind of rude and snippy. And she was just like, okay, cool. Well, when you leave out, they'll have you do some lab work and I'll see you in about 6 weeks. And I was like, can we do an ultrasound? And she was like, I don't think it's necessary. And I was like, look, like I had to literally like, well, look here. Like I was like, there's an ultrasound machine right here and I would really, really appreciate it. I was like, I'm 44 years old and there was only a gestational sac and a yolk sac, and I'm deathly afraid that this is a blighted ovum. Like I know how this works. I was like, I would really appreciate an ultrasound. And she was like, well, I have to go deliver a baby, but we can do it really quickly. And I was like, okay, cool, great. And so she just went in there and she didn't check for heartbeat. She didn't measure. She just made sure that I saw that there was an embryo, and there was. And they had like 2, I have a picture. I don't know if I have it in here or if I can show you, but the first ultrasound is right here. It's just very blurry. Shit, I dropped my ultrasound pictures, hold on. So it's just very blurry. She just very quickly like did it, and I'm really happy she did it for me. Like I really appreciate that she did that. But so I left there, went to get the blood work done down the hall, and they did the blood work, and I should have asked what the blood work was for, and I didn't. I just trusted. And so she did the blood work, and then I went home, and then like the next day I kept checking my chart to find out, because I was kind of interested in like my stats. Like, is my HCG level raising? Probably, because I saw an embryo. I'm pretty sure my HCG is rising because the baby has developed and we can see the embryo, but she didn't like show us anything. She didn't say like, oh, this is the fetal pulse. She didn't show us anything. She just really quickly like, see, there's a baby, you're good. I was like, okay. And basically like the vibe I got from her was, I'll probably never see you again anyways, probably won't stick kind of vibe, or the it'll stick or it won't, not my problem type vibe. I didn't really like it. After the appointment for like a week, I kept checking my chart and seeing what was in there, and nothing was coming up. And I kept calling and I kept asking like, hi, I had some blood tests done like a week ago, like 5 days ago, and nothing is showing up at the results. Like I'm just really curious, like, you know, can you tell me what they tested for? Like I can't, because I'm a receptionist, but you'd have to talk to our medical staff. And I'm like, okay, cool, when can I talk to them? Well, you're gonna have to call back tomorrow okay, fine. So then I call back and then I'm like, hey, you know, is my results aren't showing up. And every time I call, they're like, it'll be in there tomorrow. It'll be in there tomorrow. So they're like, it'll be in there tomorrow for sure. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me what I was tested for? And they were like, they did a something complete pregnancy panel, something like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And that includes like HCG, progesterone, like estrogen, stuff like that. And they were like, no, she didn't test for any of that. And I was just like, oh, like I felt like I needed to know that just because I've been on the IVF train for so long. And I know a lot of doctors probably don't even test for that stuff now, but in the IVF world, it's a little different. They do a lot of beta stuff. So like, basically I ended up calling my IVF coach, like my good old IVF coach who I can like really depend on, and she understands, And so I called her and I told her the current situation, and she was like, oh no, that doctor seems really careless. We would never do that. She's a RN who is an IVF nurse, and also she's done IVF herself, and she's been very successful at it. And so I trust her. And it's a little different in the IVF world, because in the IVF world, when they implant you, frozen transfer with your embryo, they go above and beyond to make sure that that baby sticks. Like, yeah, there's a chance that that baby is genetically not viable. Like, it's chromosomally like inviable. It's not gonna last no matter what you do. But there's also the understanding that if there is a perfectly capable, viable, genetic, beautiful baby, and your body being older is not capable of sustaining a pregnancy hormonally, like maybe your body just is so busy growing a baby that can't upkeep your hormone, your progesterone levels the where it needs to be, you will just spontaneously miscarry. And so that's what they try to prevent in the IVF journey when you're doing a frozen transfer. It's a little different. Like, obviously it's a lot different, because it seems like when you're naturally pregnant and you go to an OB, they're like, hope it sticks, if not, not. And they don't really take into consideration the fact that, like, I'm 44, there's a really good chance my progesterone might plummet, and like I could lose a perfectly healthy, beautiful baby, which is retarded. Why would we even chance that? So my IVF coach, she understands that world and she understands that kind of language. So she was like, oh, heck no, that doctor sounds really careless. We would never do that. So she tells me, she puts me immediately on 2 milliliters injectable progesterone and oil every single day. She sends me the progesterone and oil. I don't have to get a prescription for it. She can just direct send it to me. That's what's right here. This is my like alcohol wipes. These are all of my IVF tools, like my needles and stuff, and I have a lot of leftover in there. This is progesterone and oil. There's a couple of vials up there, and this is my sharps container. And so I have to do 2 milliliters of that daily. And then I also have to do 2 progesterone suppositories in my hoo-ha 3 times a day, and then 1 little estrogen 1 time a day. And just to kind of, they're maintenance meds, right? So they will help you maintain your pregnancy. They're not gonna harm you. The only harm, and it's not really a harm, but the only thing that I see happening is like, if your pregnancy is not viable, just genetically unviable, and it stops growing for natural reasons, it just passes away, your body will not spontaneously miscarry it out. It will hold it. And they will have to find the deceased baby, and then you'll have to stop taking your drugs, and you probably have to get a DNC. So that's the only thing. It'll help you maintain your pregnancy even if the pregnancy is, you know, done. So that's the only thing. So I'm aware of this though. So I'm on these medications, and then also I ordered my prenatal, and I did one, like, it's called New Chapter. I can link it if you want me to. It's for women 35 plus, and it's methylfolate because I do have the MTHFR mutation. I have 2 copies of that. I did that when I learned that when we did IVF. So I know those things, thank God. Like, we did genetic testing, so I know some things to help me. So the IVF coach, RN nurse, she immediately put me on these meds, and then she told me, you need to call Dr. Kiltz tell him what's going on, and he'll send you to the lab immediately. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, he's gonna wanna, you know, they don't play that. So I was like, okay. So she immediately put me on these medications. Luckily, I already had the estrogen suppositories and the progesterone suppositories, and then I have a cousin who's also like 35. She was just giving birth. Like literally on the day she was giving birth, she like ran to the post office to like send me a progesterone suppositories, and I haven't even seen her in God only knows years, but it was super sweet of her. And so I called my fertility clinic, which takes God only knows how long, because like I literally took a whole shower on the call hold waiting. And I finally get a hold of a nurse, and the thing is this, I still have embryos frozen with them. I have one embryo frozen with them, but I haven't been a patient since 2021 was my last egg retrieval. And I have been in contact with them in like 2024 because we were thinking about doing the donor eggs, but we decided not to do it. And even though I hadn't been a patient since 2021, they immediately, like, without question, like, brought my concern to the Dr. Kills. Like, I didn't talk to him directly, but I talked to the nurse and told her what was going on. I'm 44. I was thinking about, we were gonna do a frozen embryo transfer. I felt pregnant, spontaneous, natural pregnancy. And this was my experience, and there, you know, and she was like, oh, heck no. She was like, okay, we're gonna make you a chart right now. And so she made me a chart, asked me a lot of questions about like the first day of my last period, told her all the dates, like I was measuring at the ultrasound, I did this ultrasound. And so she was like, do you still have access to your portal? I was like, yes, absolutely. She immediately sent me over a requisition to go to, she told me just to go to the local hospital, go to the imaging center and go to the lab. And that's exactly what I did. And so they had everything from like TSH, which is like thyroid, estrogen, progesterone, HCG, and then both ultrasounds, the above, you know, regular, and then the transvaginal, and they wanted heartbeat, viability, measurements, everything. So I was like, finally, somebody's gonna check. So the next day, like she sent it immediately, and I went. And like I said, she didn't charge me anything. Like literally, they just started monitoring me for free. Of course, I had to go to the lab and pay for that. Like my insurance paid for that. But I went to the lab the next day. They drew my blood and they did the ultrasound. And the ultrasound technician, like I told her, you know, like this is crazy because this is naturally pregnant. And I did IVF for like a long time with like very little, no success really. I mean, it is successful that I have like one good embryo still, but that I did IVF and stuff and have no baby. And here I am 44 and just fell pregnant naturally. And so you know how the ultrasound technicians can't say anything to you? She turned the TV and she was like, just want you to look. And she like zoomed in and I could see the heartbeat. And I about died. And at that point I was about 8 weeks and some days, I think 8 weeks and 5 days or something. So the baby was measuring a little big, like 4 days bigger than I thought, because it was like another Friday. I thought it was like 8 weeks one day, but I was measuring 8 weeks 5 days at this point, according to this this thing. My heart rate was 186. My HCG was 1001 and change. And I had already been on the PIO for a few days, I think, at this point. But my progesterone was like 57. So I was good. And my estrogen was like 2000. And the only thing was, thank God I went, because they did find that my thyroid was overactive. It was high, my thyroid level. And so they immediately put me on Synthroid. So I have to take a Synthroid tablet. It's very small every morning. I'm glad they caught it because my doctor that I went to didn't. And I'm guessing it's important to do it. So she put me on Synthroid. Like they immediately called me the next morning, sent the prescription to CVS. I went and grabbed it. So every morning before food, I have to take a Synthroid. I don't really understand what it's for, but it has to do with my thyroid. It was high. So it's that time of day when I'm starting to get a little tired and nauseated. It's just that time of day. I'm ready for a nappy. I was really happy that my IVF doctor came through for me, did some monitoring. They prescribed me the Synthroid for my thyroid. I still don't really know. I'm gonna have to research that, like what exactly that means, like what is high, why is it high, and what does Synthroid actually do, because I really don't know. But I'm just really glad they caught that. And then I had a mission to find a OB, like a good one. I wasn't really happy with the first one. She was just kind of, I'm sure she was a good doctor or whatever. I'm not going to talk anything bad about her, but she was just not for me. And so I started asking around, and a lot of people recommended one particular male doctor in my area. There was like one woman who said she had her first child at 40, second at 42, and she wouldn't trust anybody else with her deliveries. And there was a couple people who did like 38 years old with twins and a 40-year-old with twins, and they all recommended this one guy local to me. And so I called his office and I said, you know, I'm 44 years old, on my first pregnancy, I'm looking for an OB. I don't have an established like OB here. I don't have a gynecologist here. Like, I've only been in the state for like a year, and I'm having a really hard time. Everybody has out until like July, and the doctor I wanted, but he didn't have any availability until like July. And I was like, that's too long to wait, right? And she's like, yeah, you should get in like the next week or two. And I was like, okay. And she's like, well, let me tell him about she was like, do you have insurance? And I was like, yes. And she was like, well, let me tell him about your case and see if he'll take you on and squeeze you in as another patient. And I was like, really? And she was like, yes. So I was so pumped about that. I was just so hopeful, and like I was so happy. And that very day we had a tornado, and like Houston shut down. Like a tornado ran through Houston. Everybody was without power. We were without power for days. Like everybody was out. So I didn't expect to hear anything back for quite a while. I gave it a few days. Like eventually, like Monday, Tuesday rolled around, and she called me and she scheduled an appointment for like that Friday, May 31st. So I think it was that Friday, but it was for May 31st. And so I got to go in on May 31st. And of course, by this point, I've had 4 ultrasounds in like a month. So, but that's just me, you know, like, I mean, I'm extra, like I just needed the reassurance, I guess. And I go in and he had me fill out some stuff to transfer information over to him, and he's gonna look at it. And he did do an ultrasound, and baby was now measuring 8 weeks and 10 weeks 1 day. And we discussed a lot of stuff. And one other thing I forgot to tell you was that initial doctor's appointment I went to with the woman doctor who I wasn't really feeling, eventually the blood work that they did come in. And I was there for several days, and eventually I kind of like went through it. And there's like one alarming thing. It was like something coli. It was from a urine sample, and it said abnormal. And so I emailed that office and I said, hi, like, did you see this result? And I copy and pasted it. What is this? And should I be concerned? And it was basically, they didn't tell me what it was. They didn't tell me anything. They just called me and said, hi, your results came in, but my results had been in. I really honestly think they were not even gonna look at it. Like, honestly, it wasn't until like 3 or 4 days after the results were in, when I was looking over it, got concerned, and emailed them. So they called me and said, hi, your results came in and we need you to pick up this prescription at CVS. Is still your pharmacy, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, it's an antibiotic, you need to take it. And I was like, okay. I was like, can you tell me what it's for? She's like, I don't really know, but it's a sulflexin, you just have to take it. And I was like, okay. So he explained to me that it was just a UTI without any symptoms, like asymptomatic UTI. He said they're pretty common when you're pregnant because your body's immune system's kind of like allowing stuff to happen. And you know, so I've never had a UTI, but I guess now I have. So I switched doctors, went to that appointment. Everything is looking good. Today is the 4th of June. And my appointment isn't tomorrow the 5th, it's a week. So it'll be the 12th. 5 plus 7 is 12. So it'll be Wednesday the 12th is gonna be my next appointment. And that will be when we do like anatomy scan a little bit, like do some measurements and do the blood work for the NIPT test, NIPT. and that will reveal like gender and check for chromosomal stuff. So I went down a rabbit hole on Reddit researching, you know, like trisomy 21, I think it's 18 and 13, I think, or 17, I forget the names, but there's like 3 genetic things that, you know, it's like Edwards syndrome, and then there's a couple other ones. There's Edwards, Down syndrome, and something else. I forget the name of it. But I researched them, and I probably shouldn't have, and honestly, just like getting pregnant, it's up to God now. Like there's nothing I can do about it, like except for totally surrender and enjoy every single day of being pregnant. And I just want to show you, this is the ultrasound from, the last one, the 31st. So today is the 4th, and so this was just like 4 or 5 days ago. So he's so cute. And I know it looks a little weird, it's still early, but there's the heartbeat. I think we're like 187, 186. And the cool thing is like you can see his fingers. Like I know it's like really blurry, but like when you were actually there, like dude, look, you can see fingers, and he was like waving. I keep saying he, my mommy intuition is saying it's a he. We will know very soon because we're gonna have the NIPT tells us the gender, so we're gonna get that tested not tomorrow, Wednesday, but a week from tomorrow, and it'll tell us gender. So I'm really excited about that, and it'll take like a week to get the results back. So yeah, I'm very, very excited. I'm very, very happy. I'm still like, even just getting this last ultrasound, I was just like, there's a baby in there. Like, like I just had like this ultrasound like 4 or 5 days ago. So I wish I could get an ultrasound every single day to see my baby, just to be like, there he is. My mommy intuition is saying boy. My husband really wants a boy. Other people I think girl. Everybody else is like, oh, it's gonna be a girl. I don't know if they just think that because I'm girly. But whatever God wants, I'm gonna be happy with. I will be fine with a girl, totally fine. I don't really have a preference, honestly, at this point, because raising Emerson for a while, kinda, I could handle a girl. Like I could use a little, you know, a little refresh, because I had a boy for like 6 months, so that was raising. So I'm trying to think if there's any other details. That's basically it for now. I'll definitely come back and make another video after, you know, nifty. I can't wait to get another ultrasound. I'm really excited to see a baby. I'll be 11, basically I'll be 11 weeks tomorrow. So when I go in for the nifty, I'll be 12 weeks. So baby's getting chunky. He's like that. Like right now he's like that, and then he'll be like that. Speaking of that, PIO, progesterone and oil. It's the bane of my existence. My butt hurts so bad because you have to get the shots on the side top of your butt, and it's every single day, and it's progesterone and oil, so it's thick. And how we do it, my husband does it, or my brother Wyatt does it, and the needles are 2.5 inches long. Nice. They have to go all the way in your butt, and they're pretty thick gauged because oil is going through it. So I numb the spot it goes in with a pack of edamame from the freezer, and then the syringe without the needle on it, I put it under here and let it warm up and get it really nice and warm for like 10 minutes. And while the ice is freezing me, and then we just inject it, and it goes all the way in. It's like a dart going in your butt every day. It's very long. It's like that long from nail to nail, like 2.5 inches, legit, like no joke, like that big in your butt every single day. And those suppositories are not fun, but very worth it, very worth the wait. I'm very excited. I'm so glad I finally did this video. I've been wanting to do it, hesitant, but I definitely want a record of like my pregnancy, like no matter what happens. Like I'm a realistic optimist, and I know what time it is, and I know there's gonna be a lot of little milestones, but I also know like I'm not really worried about the NIPT test like I should be, but it's fine. It's gonna be great. Like our baby's gonna be perfect no matter what. It's gonna be fine. Like I didn't come this far, you know what I mean? Like this feels like ordained, you know what I mean? Like feels like it's meant to be. So it gives me a little peace and reassurance. I'm just gonna surrender it, and it is what it is, and it's God's got a plan, I guess, because this sure wasn't my doing. Like, obviously it was, but it's not like, still don't quite, still can't believe it. But thank you for watching, and that's it. And I'll come back and give a little update, and gonna go think of some baby names, and hope it's a boy. If it's a boy, I already know the name, so. But yeah, I'm gonna go take a nap probably. So have a good one. Bye. Love ya.